Hello and thank you for joining me. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today's subject is the development of the will as a key to occultism. This is the development of the will. And in my last video, I talked about the dual or twofold nature of the will. And today we're going to go a little bit deeper now into the development of the will, into kind of this process and how it is applied. So, first of all, what is the will? What is the will? How do you define will? The will is defined in a number of ways. It is both the fiery active impulse or drive to accomplish, and that is externally directed towards the environment. And then you have that aspect of the will that is directed inwardly. It is self-restraint, self-mastery, self-conquest. So it's like we have a mirror image. We have a twofold aspect of this applied outwardly and externally. It's like looking at a pool of water and seeing a reflection. There is a dual aspect to this. So, first of all, many of you are familiar with the symbol of the twin pillars, the two pillars. And this is a symbol that you see a lot in the occult community. So you have twin pillars or twin towers, twin pillars, and you have, these represent the interplay of opposites. So on the right hand pillar you have a fiery active energy, and this left pillar is a cooling energy. And you'll see the concept of twin pillars or two pillars within some pretty old sources. We see this concept of two pillars. So the left-hand pillar is called Boaz. We see this in Freemasonry as the left-hand pillar, Boaz. This pillar is shown. These are the twin pillars on King Solomon's porch of the temple. And these represent all opposites. They're two pillars that are found in the Qabalah. So right here we put a J, and right here a B. Okay. So Yakin and Boaz. There is no J in Hebrew. Okay. So the actual pronunciation would be Yakin. So we have Yakin and Boaz. That is two aspects of will. If you look at the Chariot tarot card, you'll see a charioteer directing both a white horse and a black horse. If you would like, if you have a Rider-Waite tarot deck, BOTA tarot deck, tarot, lots of tarot decks today use this basic imagery of a white and a black horse with a charioteer on the chariot card. Now, this image of a charioteer directing a white and black horse is very old. In fact, it derives from the chariot allegory of the soul of the philosopher Plato. It dates back 2,400 years. So even though the tarot is actually pretty new, okay, in fact, I would be very interested if someone can find evidence of tarot predating the 14th century. I would like to see that. Because tarot is actually pretty new invention. We don't have any sources of tarot that go back before, say, the 14th century. But yet the chariot allegory of the soul dates back 2,400 years. So the major arcana, or greater arcana, the greater mysteries of the tarot, the 22 cards of the major arcana, or the 21 in addition to the full, these cards show certain allegories that are very old. So, and of course this was amped up in the Rider-Waite deck and later decks, occult decks. But anyways, you see two pillars. These are two opposite aspects of the self, two opposing aspects of the will. Okay, the charioteer has a white and black horse. The fiery active aspect of the will is the drive, the energy and drive to go out and achieve a goal. This fiery active drive is what motivates you to get out there and accomplish your desire. This cooling aspect of the will, this lunar cooling aspect, is the part of the will that is about self-restraint. Whereas the lunar aspect, the cooling, is inward directed, this fiery sulfur aspect is outwardly directed. Now sometimes you will see a moon up above the black pillar and a sun up above the white pillar. So solar and lunar, okay? Now, what is the goal of occultism? What is the quintessential goal of occultism? Many people would say that it is the great work. It is the magnum opus, the great work. The great work. This is a term used in alchemy for the transmutation of base metals into gold. So it's an alchemical term for turning base metals into gold. And this creation of gold comes about by the perfect balance of the opposite principles of sulfur and mercury. So if you purify any metal and balance its sulfur and mercury, its active and passive properties, then you get gold. I'm not saying that that's actually scientifically true, but that was believed in alchemy, okay? So you see an interplay of opposites, two opposing forces, is the creation of the great work. The great work is not just turning base metals into gold, it is self-transformation. It is turning the baser elements of character into the pure philosophical gold of self-realization. It is self-change and knowledge. It is gnosis. So whereas a lot of external doctrines and religions focus on a worship or appeasing of an external deity, this movement seems to focus inwardly to a self-change, self-transformation, knowledge, apotheosis. So we have a dual aspect of the will. The fiery aspect is that desire to go out and to accomplish a goal, whereas this passive aspect is self-restraint. In the strength card, the lion is this fiery aspect, this fiery drive to accomplish. The maiden that restrains the lion is Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Okay, the chemical Mercury, which is this pillar right here, is that cooling aspect. So the charioteer, the strength card, we have an interplay of these two opposites. So what is the importance of the will? It is the ability to create. It is self-creation, and it is the creation of your external world. This is self-change and self-transformation. And it goes to follow that if you change yourself, then the external world changes. If you change your environment, then there is an inner struggle that has been accomplished too. Just like the inner work of the alchemist also manifests in laboratory work. Life is the great laboratory. Life is the laboratory. It is the experiment. This is where the changes and processes of self-change occur. And going out and trying to get a better job. And the struggles you go through in life. This is a process that in trying to change the outside world, there is an inner shift. It causes growth. So, the will is about changing your life and changing yourself. So it is about having a direction in life. It is about having a goal and doing everything to achieve it. Okay? So it is about self-transformation and the transformation of life. Now, today I'm going to give two very simple methods that you could apply. And these are very basic. Okay. Now, I personally don't like how people tend to water down occultism with a bunch of psychology stuff. I don't really care for that. However, I look at occultism as a science that has grown and evolved. And so, the real process of developing the will is your own struggle with yourself. That's how I see it, at least. It is your own struggle with yourself. And a very basic way to focus upon one goal while you actually go out there to achieve it. In order to develop will, you have to exercise self-control and push yourself to accomplish. So while it's good to have this really I guess idealized, deep, mysterious occult thing, you have to bring occultism down to practicality. So a very simple thing that you can do is to visualize your goal and to repeat affirmations. Visualize your goal every day and repeat affirmations. This is a way to focus upon your goal. Okay, and get out there and make yourself accomplish it. So I'll give an example. In my own life, I'm trying to master my body. And in mastering my body, it's really a process of mastery of the self. It is a self-mastery. So I am a little bit overweight, but I've been lifting weights. Okay, so I've been out lifting weights, and I push myself to go out there and to do weightlifting. Now, sometimes I don't feel like getting up, getting on the treadmill and working out, but I make myself do it anyways. I look at it as an alchemical process. So, affirming every day, my goal is to master my body. I visualize the body I want to have. I repeat affirmations, and I make myself get up. So that driving force is that energy. I want to accomplish this, I want to accomplish this. I psych myself up, and I go do it. Self-restraint, even though I don't feel like it, I make myself do it anyways. So in directing yourself towards a goal, you have an inward self-transformation, self-change. So many of us tend to go through life like a ship with no direction in mind. So most people just sail along in life. That's like driving without a destination. Okay? But to have a goal and to do what you can to accomplish that goal, that has a structure. It is, I will achieve X. And you do everything in your power to accomplish that goal. So, basically what I'm saying is, you need to find a goal. It doesn't have to... One major problem for many people is they try to come up with their life purpose right off the bat. You don't have to do that. Come up with a goal for yourself this year. Maybe it's to quit smoking. Maybe it's to lose weight. Maybe you want to get in shape. Or maybe you want to develop better communication skills or get a better job. Write down this goal and do everything to achieve it. Get yourself excited. Okay, focus on your goal and make yourself have a fiery energy and drive. That's that aspect. And self-control, like if you're trying to lose weight and you want a donut, the self-restraint is self-control, self-discipline. So while this is very mundane, that's how this stuff works. It works in very practical ways. This is a practical philosophy to obtain real goals in life. So my advice is visualization, affirmations, and push yourself to achieve. Okay, so this is an inner struggle. It is a struggle with the self. It is the desire to master the self. There is an inner conflict. You quickly realize that there is actually two people. It's almost like there are two individuals struggling with each other. And this self-conquest, trying to master the self, you quickly realize when you want to go work out, part of you doesn't feel like it. There's part of you that always wants to give up. Part of you that always wants the donut or whatever. So this is about self-mastery, self-control. Remember, the strength card shows a maiden shutting the jaws of a lion. It is about self-control, self-mastery. A lack of will is, it could be said that a lack of willpower is the cause of all our problems, in a sense. Obesity being partially, sometimes, obesity being the lack of self-control to stop eating. Alcoholism. If you want a beer, you drink it. I mean, if you don't want to drink and you do it anyways. Any kind of addiction. So drug addiction, even violence, violent crimes, people that beat their wives, alcoholism, obesity. All these things are a lack of self-control. So in religious mythology, some people might say a struggle with the devil or whatever. This is an inner struggle with the self. It's an internal conflict that occurs. And in symbolism, we see it in the tarot, this inner struggle. For those of you that get into the Qabalah and the esoteric interpretation of Scripture, you could say that this is Jacob who wrestles with the angel all night and is renamed Israel. Any kind of struggle or conflict is the struggle between Horus and Set. It is an inner conflict, an inner struggle of opposites. And the goal is not to repress the beast, okay? So you have an idea of repressing evil or repressing that aspect of ourselves. It's not about repression. It's about directing it in a specific direction. So we have the image, the iconography of the virgin bruising the head of the serpent. And in doing this, the serpent can be directed into a particular direction. It's not about repressing the libido. It's about directing that sexual force in a particular direction. It is control of a force to take a force that's normally just dissipated and to concentrate it upon a central goal. Okay? So in the caduceus wand, we have the interplay of opposites. It is about channeling the energies towards a specific goal. Okay? So, I'm sure that some of you may be asking yourselves, is it really the goal to, is it really a person's goal? Well, maybe that's not the best way to put it. Should we really try to control our lives? Okay, some people have the philosophy that you should just go with the flow. Stop trying to control things. Just go with the flow. Okay. You see this concept very strong in Taoism, things like that. Go with the flow. No reason to control everything. And that's a very good point. Okay. So again, you have a duality. For those of you that are familiar with the tarot, I love using the occult symbolism in the tarot. Okay. To me, the key to the occult is symbolism, and the use of symbolism to bring up the seed of knowledge from the unconscious. Now let me take a moment to dwell on this for a moment. There's book learning, where you crack open a book and you memorize the words, okay? Now with pictorial imagery, with symbols, instead of reading in a book what it means, if you look at the symbols and you focus your mind, if you stare at any kind of a symbol and you look at the different association of ideas and examine it from different perspectives. Now you don't veer off completely. It's like there's a dot, which is the central image or concept, and you have the periphery of a circle. You move about the image until finally ideas start to come to the surface. Ideas begin to spawn from the unconscious mind. This isn't a knowledge that comes from books. This is a knowledge that stems from the self. It's been said by some that the knowledge lies within. Well, what the hell does that mean? Well, you notice very quickly when you begin to study images, I know psychologists like to use the ink blot to bring up the complexes, the aspects that are repressed elements in the psyche, ink blots, but if you really stare at an image, ideas begin to come to the surface. And you realize that within the self is a process. There is a type of knowledge, a type of psychology. Well, anyways, we were talking about, should you really try to control your life in every way, or should you go with the flow? Well, with the Fool card, what is the Fool? Okay, the Fool card is very much freedom. It's go with the flow. In Rider-Waite deck and similar decks, it shows a youth intoxicated by a rose. He doesn't realize he's about to walk off a precipice, but he has lofty ideals. This is your free aspect that just wants to play and relax and go with the flow and do whatever you want. And 0 isn't really nothing, it's the lack of things. So the not, from this philosophical, occult, spiritual perspective, this philosophy, 0, you can say, the ayin, or ain, the Ein Sof. 0, it's not really nothing. Rather, it's the lack of distinctions, the lack of things. There is no structure. So we have that aspect. What's the next card? The next card is the Magus, or Magician, which is the 1. Now, as opposed to the Fool, you have the Wise Man. Wait, that was wrong. I'm not putting a value judgment of good or bad. I'm just saying there's a contrast. And these two figures exist within each and every one of us. We all have that part that wants to go out and play. Okay? We all have that part that's like, okay, down to business. Whereas 0 is just boundless, just freedom. The number 1 is often represented by a point. Okay? It is concentration. And the Magician is the will. Notice the 8 that is above the head of the Magician is also above the Maiden and the Strength card. It is control. So you have this free-flowing aspect, and the point is the concentrated aspect. Of course, that is the image of the eye and of the sun. And also, you have gold. So, the great work is about a certain type of balance. Now, going back into occult psychology, so a lot of people that are into like self-hypnosis and positive thinking, I mean, I kind of, that was my first exposure to occultism, was when I was actually a child, and my grandmother read all these books. One of my first books reading was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. So that had a big influence on me, the Jose Silva method. So positive thinking. This is about the conscious mind putting positive images in the subconscious. And this is the key to self-hypnosis. Affirmation, repeated thoughts, visualization, positive thinking, self-hypnosis, conscious autosuggestion. These are ways to put positive images in the subconscious to program the self. But there's another aspect. Those negative images that are pushed down, there's no one more repressed than one of those positive thinking people. Now, I say this, I have a lot of respect for that, but there's a dual process here. You have to bring up this negative material to the surface and release it. So, while you're feeding in positive material, you have to bring up the things that you push down have to come to the surface. So, those negative opinions about yourself that you push down, the things that you push down because you don't want to think about it, that's bad, is still there. It doesn't go away by piling on more positive thinking. You have to bring this stuff up to the surface and get rid of it. Okay? So, you have a dual process here. Okay? So, this kind of goes back to the image of the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is a serpent with its tail in its mouth. It is a serpent with its tail in its mouth. Okay? It slays itself and it fertilizes itself. You can see that it's eating its own self, and yet you see a phallic and yonic symbol here of self-fertilization. And its beginning is in its end. The Ouroboros, or serpent with its tail in its mouth, which is one of the oldest symbols known to man. I have personally seen it in the Book of Amentet, which is one of the oldest. Was it the Book of Amentet or the Book of Gates? I don't remember. But this is the oldest. This isn't something where I looked up how old it is. This is the oldest that I remember off the top of my head that I have personally seen this, which dates back to the 18th dynasty of Egypt. So, the Ouroboros, serpent of its tail in its mouth, represents its beginning is in its end. It's the Alpha and the Omega. Beginning and the end. Okay. And turning about itself. This represents any kind of repeated cycle. Okay. So, we all notice the sun rises. It reaches its midway point at noon, and it sets in the west, okay? And then at midnight, it's on the other side of the earth. So that is a repeated cycle. Its end is in its beginning. We have the passage of the seasons. Something that we have rhythms, flux. The phases of the moon, they come and go. The wheel of the year. We have 4 seasons. And you quickly notice that just like the sun rises, noon sets and goes under the earth, in the same way, we seem to have a life cycle every day. We wake up in the morning, or when we wake up out of bed, this is birth. This is sunrise, it's birth. Midday, this is noon, the middle of your day, you're real active. Most of us at evening tend to relax, and then we go to sleep. Sleep is a lot like a life cycle. You're going into the underworld, the land of the dead. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like a birth. Midday of activity, noon. The middle of life, maturity. When you're done with your day and you want to relax, that's old age. And when you lay down and you go to sleep, it appears that you're dead. You're not moving. And your consciousness seems to be in another world, your dreamland. So you see how every day we are born, we go through life, and we die. And then we're reborn the next day. So this is the image of the wheel, which this is the wheel of fortune. The wheel of fortune. Okay, this is the wheel of the year. I guess we can put this bottom half of the wheel as the dark aspect. Okay? This is night, this is day. So the sun rises, noon, sunset, and then the sun goes into the underworld. In mythology, in Egyptian mythology, the sun god Ra in his boat at sunset enters the land of the underworld, Amentet, and battles with the serpent Apep, only to rise in the east at sunrise. So every night the sun god Ra goes into the underworld. So we wake up, we go through our day, old age, and death. When we go to bed, we dream. This is a daily cycle. Someone told me the other day that they didn't believe in the Ouroboros, the serpent with its tail in its mouth. That didn't make much sense to me, because how do you not believe in a symbol that obviously exists? And then I began to ask him, do you wake up every day? Do you go to bed? Do you not notice seasons? Cycles of sunrise and sunset? He responded, of course. But you don't believe in the Ouroboros. Today, science tends to look at everything as individual and in parts, units. This is ancient science, whereas they notice certain rhythms and patterns within our life cycle, within the sun, seasons, the rotation of the planets. So they noticed that the leaves of the trees would fall, the tree would appear to die in the winter, and then the tree would bloom back to life in the spring. They noticed that the heat of the sun causes evaporation, and then it rains. Separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry. It ascends to the heavens, and it falls back down to the earth. Its power is entire if it be converted into the earth. As above, so below. As below, so above. Its father is the sun, heat. Its mother is the moon, moisture. The wind carries it in its belly, evaporation. Its nurse is the earth, condensation. So we have a repeated cycle. This is the wheel of the year, the wheel. This is the wheel of fortune. Now, this process in which you have the man, which is Aquarius. Over here you have Scorpio. Now the Scorpio is the scorpion. We all know this, okay? I had someone actually tell me the Scorpio isn't the eagle, the Scorpio is a scorpion. Yes, we're all aware that Scorpio is a scorpion, okay? But Scorpio also has a symbol, the eagle. So the man eagle, okay, lion, this is Leo, and the bull. These are the four creatures of the apocalypse and the vision of Ezekiel in Revelations. Man, lion, bull, and an eagle. And I saw four living creatures with the head of a lion, bull, eagle. So these represent the fixed signs of the zodiac. You have, now moving counterclockwise, Scorpio, this is autumn, the middle of autumn. The fixed signs of the zodiac, excuse me, happen in the middle of a season. They're fixed as opposed to cardinal and mutable. So you have autumn, winter, you have the man, Aquarius, Taurus is spring. Leo is the heat of summer. The fiery lion from the strength card refers to the month of August in the northern hemisphere with the tropical zodiac. It's the hottest period. So we go through this cycle, the Wheel of Fortune. And you have tarot, or you could also say rota, wheel, orat, prayer, ator. So this is the serpent with its tail in its mouth. Now going back to self-hypnosis, giving yourself positive suggestions, sometimes you have to let the negative stuff come to the surface. And this is about our end and our beginning. This is about self-sacrifice and consumption and self-fertilization. Okay? So we come up to the conscious aspect and we work our day and we give ourselves positive ideas. But then in the land of dreams, there is this underworld. This is the shadow. We need to incorporate this. So no, everything is not just about the will to control everything in life. You also have to go with the flow. Opposites. And instead of just positive affirmation, like you hear in a lot of the motivational psychology, law of attraction, the secret stuff, there's also bringing up your own darkness. Light and darkness, Jachin and Boaz. And within the will, you have two horses that guide the chariot, a fiery impulse and self-restraint. So my advice is self-mastery. The great work is the recreation of the self by the self. It is peeling away the layers. The serpent, which is a symbol of immortality, sheds its skin. It is a constant turning. It is a constant self-transformation. Let's see. Okay. This is from Carl Jung. In the age-old image of the Ouroboros lies the thought of devouring oneself and turning oneself into a circulatory process. For it was clear to the more astute alchemists that the prima materia of the art was man himself. Okay. So anyways, so the will, come up with a goal. It doesn't have to be your purpose of life. What are you going to accomplish this year or this month? You're going to quit smoking? What? Make yourself accomplish this. And this is where sitting around meditating and reading a bunch of occult books is not going to do for you what engaging in life can do out there in the world. Because this is your laboratory. In achieving out there, there is an inward change, and vice versa. So anyways, so that is today's lesson on the development of will and of course the broader implications. This is about taking the rough, unhewn ashlar or stone, hacking away at its imperfections until you have the perfected stone or the perfect ashlar. This is about taking base metals and turning them into gold. This is about self-transformation. Self-change. This is the apotheosis of the self. So anyways, running out of time. Thank you for joining me and see you guys next time. There's a lot more stuff to come. Thank you. Have a great day, y'all.